we keeping it real. We got a great show today because we're going to be talking about Gaza, and all of you should be talking about Gaza. But even more than that, as many of you as you can need to join us somewhere when we're standing up, dealing with this issue and calling on our government to do the right thing. We're going to hear more about that in the show. And if you check this week's, just the Challenger that just came out, you'll see an article on a demonstration that just occurred the week before. And there's going to be plenty more. But as we go along, you should be planning to join us because this is about humanity. And what's happening now has happened in other ways, but not at this magnitude. I'm going to shut up because I'm supposed to be saying hi. And I'm going to pass it to Brother Murray.
What's going on, Buffalo? To God be the glory. We're here today to let you know that we're here on the Jim Anderson Show. We're going to give it to you facts, facts, facts. That's what it's all about. We're going to rock it up in here. You heard the noise coming in the door. We almost like the Ricky Smiley Show right now. We growing in Buffalo on that level. Jim Anderson Show, we're here live, and we're going to be correct. And to God be the glory.
So we're going to, there you go.
Yeah,
we're going
to
start
hop right over to the guest. Again, just introduce yourself, say your name. A little bit, if you want to say what you're here to talk about, like what you're supposed to represent, and then how you're doing today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Derek Seidman. I'm a member of an organization called Jewish Voice for Peace Buffalo. We're a chapter of a national organization called Jewish Voice for Peace that has thousands and thousands of members, and we've been particularly active over the past few months in the streets, taking direct action, contacting elected officials with the urgent call for an immediate ceasefire to the horrific genocidal war that Israel is waging in Gaza right now with the backing of the United States. So thank you for inviting us and looking forward to talking about this with everyone.
Good to have you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Barbara Sozen. I am a new member to MPAC, which stands for the Muslim Public Affairs Council. We are also a Buffalo, a chapter from a national organization of MPAC, which is based in LA. And we are an organization that basically informs and helps shape public opinion about Muslims, about Islam in America. And we're kind of like a resource for government, media, businesses, educational institutions, policy institutions. So, of course, since the horrific events that have been going on, this issue has been at our forefront to be advocates for the Muslims here in Buffalo and all over America. And we amazingly found JVP, and we've partnered up with them with a lot of different things we've done together, different projects we've worked on. And we're also so happy to be given this opportunity to, speak more to what's going on and hopefully try to find some sort of resolution to this. Thank you.
Thanks again, guys, for having us. My name is Saqib Ahmed. I'm also a part of MPAC, like Barbara. So the advantage of going last in introductions is that I can only say that I resonate with both Derek and Barbara, and I look forward to everything else we're going to talk about. Thanks.
Cool. Let me just say, make yourself at home. This may be the first time, but this won't be the last time, because I want to be with you until this issue is resolved, because this issue, like I said, is a reflection of something that has been going on around the planet in different ways, not at this magnitude, but clearly, surely, stopping what is happening in Gaza right now is a necessary thing. So I want you to treat it like as if you were giving an on-air lecture and tell us the things that you think are important for people to know. We're trying to grow the community to catch up with what MPAC and JVP already know, and others who have been engaged on this issue know. But there are a lot of people who don't know, and don't know is really about them too. You cannot at this moment stand by and watch children and women and far too many people be slaughtered and act as if we're helpless. We claim to be the toughest and the most powerful country in the world, kind of, sort of, but for the wrong reasons. And I'll shut up and have your way. And Murray and Austin both will probably be throwing something in. And then any callers and listeners, you can join us at 716-837-1112. Stay on topic. Like I said, check out the Challenger. I think page 12. You'll see some information on one of the rallies and catch up, because communities like ours all over the country are standing up on this issue. And before I give up the mic, let me tell you something else. When we talk about the Palestinians, I want you to think about Ferguson. Yeah, some of y'all talk about Ferguson, but the Palestinians were there in support from Jump Street. So what I'm saying is, we this is a family thing, and this is a thing where, those who stand with us, we need to stand with them. We're just actually standing with self. I'm a combat veteran, so I know something about a lot of killing. And I know what goes on while talk goes on in the White House and whatever other house, but people out there on the ground, they don't go by the rules. They go with an animal nature once they start doing it, and the evidence is there. And kudos to South Africa for having the gumption and the right spirit to bring an international lawsuit against them. We're in the right moment, so your voices are welcome. And hey, say it loud, say it often, and don't forget to talk about how people can get in touch with your organizations and so forth.
So for me, I think that, like he said, I think this is an important issue to get involved with. This show is supposed to represent the community's vision. So for me, I'm just going to imagine the community has no clue what's going on. So can you guys give us, I think when I look online, right, I don't know really what to believe and what not to believe. Right, I know we have a war machine in America, right? We're so disenfranchised that we don't really know what a casualty, what that really means, right? So I don't really know online what there is to believe. And I think it's one thing, it's okay to not know, but it's not okay to stay not known, right? There's a difference. And so can you guys just give us a truth? What is going on over there? And it doesn't have to be long, but just give us an overview so we can start to speak from the same understanding or same level platform.
I think today is the 157th day of the Israeli assault on Gaza that began after the horrific attacks on October 7th. And at this point,
Mic closer to you.
Bring it a little closer.
Mhm.
Really close.
Yeah,
to the
you
mic.
can move it.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Perfect.
At this point, we know that over 30,000 Palestinians have been killed. Many more thousands are lying dead in the rubble. Gaza has been virtually destroyed. Almost the entirety of Gaza's over 2 million population has been displaced.
Mm.
And when we say over 30,000 people have been killed, we're talking about the overwhelming majority women and children. Israel has essentially cut off aid going into Gaza. Right now, you have humanitarian agencies around the world issuing a dire warning of imminent famine and starvation in Gaza. It's already happening, actually. Children are dying from starvation. There's a real lack of supplies. I know it sounds horrific, but it's true. There are operations happening on small children without any anesthesia. It is one of the great moral crises of our time, if not the great moral crisis of our time. And it's sorry to say that the United States has been backing it all along, sending billions of dollars in military aid, weapons aid, and that includes senators from Western New York, Gillibrand and Schumer, who have, supported all of this without any dissent, any criticism. And really, it's just a horrific, horrible thing that's happening. And we're, desperately calling for an immediate ceasefire. There's a longer history behind all this too, of Israeli dispossession of Palestinian land and occupation, apartheid. And, you can't understand what's happening today and the events that led to it without understanding that context. But maybe that's something we can get more into if we have time.
So before we jump into those more specific questions, we do have a caller that wants to kind of join the conversation. Good morning, Carla. You are on the air.
Yes, good day. I'm glad you're talking about this. I think people have to think before October 7th.
Yeah.
Israel has an extreme right-wing government in power right now that the Israeli people were protesting strongly against. Thousands, if not more, of people were protesting every day because of Netanyahu's desire to curtail the judicial branch. And my understanding, and I stand to be rescued if I'm incorrect, the settlers were told that if they could hold out, if they were ever attacked, if they could hold out for 30 minutes, the Israeli Defense Force would be there to rescue them. And it took hours for there to be any effective response. So it feels to me that the Netanyahu government wanted an atrocity to happen so that they would have the excuse to be able to do what they're doing now in terms of further attacking the people in Gaza and the West Bank. And people don't understand that a lot of Palestinians are being held prisoner without any sort of judicial treatment. They don't call them hostages, they call them prisoners.
You got that right.
Hostages too.
I gotta push you. I gotta push it.
I'm gonna stop.
Oh, okay.
And listen, I just want to make those points.
Well, I thank you for it. I thank you for the harmony of your comments, because you're right on the issue. And hey, thank you for calling in and sharing that and amplifying the situation even more.
And
Listen.
bouncing off what the caller is saying, I know you had touched on the U.S.'s involvement with this. I think another place where we can start to get deeper, a good entry point, is making it real for us, right? Because for a lot of people who aren't involved, it's like it's out of sight, out of mind. But it's just like with a bully. If you don't say anything, you're contributing to the problem. So can you maybe start to touch on how the U.S. is contributing to this issue, either directly or indirectly, in our involvement in what's going on today in Gaza?
Barbara, yeah.
Sure. So it's what I told Barbara earlier on, what I call contradictions on steroids. So, while this reality is unfolding, an equally horrific reality is also staring at us on the face, which is when you open up any mainstream media, they're saying exactly the opposite. So this is where exactly what you were saying, a little bit of dig deep, you have to dig deep. And while the stories of 30,000 massacred and more, they've just been reduced to a number with no humanity, no life, no dreams, no aspirations, just numbers. The voice of Dr. Martin Luther King and what he said was that, when during the Vietnam War, and I'm just paraphrasing, but what he said was, if there was a moral death of the United States and you did an autopsy, the autopsy would say Vietnam, and I think that's true for now, which is it's Gaza. I think at the core of these contradictions is a machine that we all know, and it's not new. It's been churning for over 7 decades, and these are layers that we need to talk about and peel off one step at a time. And by the way, all of you who are on social media, you don't need a PhD to do any of this,
No,
right?
you sure don't.
You have kids who are 16, 17, 18, young men and women by the tens of thousands. Don't have to be Muslim. You don't have to. I'm not Palestinian. You don't have to be Muslim or Palestinian or any of that. South Africa leading the show. Kudos. I think the world by and large is waking up, but it requires just that extra degree of question. What was October 7th? Sure, but what was 8th, 9th, and 10th? What was 2021? What was 2022? Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International,
So
that all flat out called out the genocide, or sorry, the apartheid, that all the criteria for apartheid have been met in 2020, 2022. There were precursors leading up to this, right? And then you have the larger context of the last 7 decades. So
let me ask you this question, because
Sure.
I'm hearing a lot here, and this got some biblical stuff that's involved with all this here, the settlement and all that there. I mean, when you say 7 decades, we got to go further back than that.
yeah, sure.
And to the point to where we are right now, and America is now being called the savior for everything that's supposed to be happening. It takes everyone to be the savior of what's going to be happening here. It takes everyone to put their guns down, not just abroad over there, but also here in America as well. We don't count the homicides and things that we have here going on with young black men and young black children and that's dying on our street. Those numbers add up to 30,000 plus just as well. So I'm saying to you, when we talk about Gaza, and I've been watching the news lately, and it's always repetitious. They always show the same thing over and over and over again. And then we send resources there now. They're sending them by planes and things like that there. It's out of tune to how we do business. We have to put our differences to the side. We have to come to the table with our religions and saying, look, what is the greater value for humanity? That's where we are with this thing here. So when I hear this stuff about Gaza saying that, it's on this people and on that people, and now they're talking about having 2 states, and I'm like, you're on a settlement, and how does that go across to you from being on this side here in Buffalo and to dealing with the issues that's over there? That's your homeland for some of y'all, but how do we get to that level of making it clear to the people that we live with to help you on this journey?
So now you have, and you've seen these footages, you have, Jacob from Long Island or Brooklyn, whatever, walk into historic Palestine. And there was this phenomenal clip that came out where the owner, and they've owned the place for generations. They're like, what are you doing? You're in our property and you're here to steal. And then he's like, yeah, if I don't steal it, someone else will. In that one clip, it did like hundreds of millions of dollars of Israeli propaganda. But I think when you have these contradictions, again, of people who've lived there for thousands of years, right? And then you have now folks who have no connection whatsoever to that, walk in and just say that this is my home. So, that in parallel, obviously, and that's kind of what I was trying to allude to before, which is that there are these realities that just didn't start in October 7th. That's a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not even like 10 years or 20 years, it's decades. And, you have settlement encroaching, you have these extremist settlers that you let loose by the thousands. Actually, there's a clip that I was watching the other day by an Israeli-American lady, and she was talking about interviewing IDF soldiers. And what she was leading up to was from birth, they are programmed so much so, and this is such a machine, I use the word machine, that it's only when you have an 18, 19-year-old IDF soldier, pointing their gun at a 5-year-old child, and they're like, what I was taught was wrong, this cannot be right. So then you have that huge wave from within also coming, where, again, I go back to that one word, contradiction. Mm-hmm. It's contradiction in kinetics, obviously that's been going on, but also realities on the ground. And I think for us to just peel off one layer, you don't have to peel off 10 layers, just peel off one layer and they'll tell you to stop. Why? Because the truth is there. You go back to 18, whatever, with the Balfour Declaration, a land for people without a land or whatever it is, that's that historic statement that they made.
You speak of history that is well known by the African American community because the same way that they propagate stories that are not true about what's happening is we have a long history of that.
Absolutely.
And it creates a negative, false, villainous kind of positioning. So for a long time, and still in this country, people of color are looked at through a villainous lens. You know, all this like we get along, yeah, some, but they're still having a hard time seeing very clearly.
Absolutely.
And the same, I think, is with what's happening in Gaza. The stories we're getting don't represent the truth.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people are being so misled by what they see on the news that's printing out and that's on TV that they don't know the truth. That's why your voices are so important. And what people need to know, they've been squashed. I mean, there's a blackout basically on hearing the truth spoken. It's starting to break through now because even we got a president that is beginning to realize something has to be done. How can you run for office and have supplied weapons that have killed so many people?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and piggyback off of what Sakib said about contradictions. You know, this morning I got up and I, checked my news, and there was some irony to some tweets that were made, for example, by President Biden. So I'm not sure if everyone's aware, today is the first day of Ramadan for the holy month of Muslims. And, in recent years, it's a thing for our elected officials to wish everyone a happy Ramadan, which President Biden did in maybe 2 sentences. And also the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, did the same. And, it wasn't just an irony in that, what's going on. There was a hurt. There's such a pain right now and I know I've been saying Muslim people. I'm not Palestinian. I'm American. I am Texan born. I'm, revert to Islam. But there is, a pain that's been going through the Muslim people as a collective since this has been going on. I've known few Palestinian friends. I have a few. Now I have way more. And I've learned so much more about the history and about what's going on since this has happened, out of necessity to learn and to help. But our community is so diverse, especially in America, because, when you go to the Muslim countries, they're all in their own country. Here, we've got people, from Asian Muslim countries, from African Muslim countries, from the Middle East, part of Turkey is European. I mean, you've got so many different Muslim countries. Here, we're in this small community of Buffalo, and we've had this opportunity to learn about the Palestinians and their plight that's been going on, and the hurt is, you cannot describe the hurt, and to hear, knowing that American-made bombs are being sent and sold or given, our tax dollars is given to this government and to murder innocents, knowing that my money is funding this, and then to wake up to a president to wish me a happy Ramadan, to wish those mothers who have lost all of their children a happy Ramadan, to wish those orphans a happy Ramadan. It's just the contradiction. You can't even put words to how it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And so it's been really hard. It still is hard. And what hurts is that knowing that we're in our safe place, safe, I say in quotes, and to think of what they're going through. This is nothing compared to what they're going through. I do have a number for the people who starved to death. So far as 25 people have starved to death. That means they've died. And thousands and thousands are on the brink of starving to death. So, this is again something that's not unsolvable. People need food. They need food. I mean, it's simple. This shows you, in this day and age, with the amount of food and resources and people that want to help, and the amount of media coverage and the amount of money and the place in the world, this isn't, somewhere people don't have access to. Food trucks are waiting to get in. Food is spoiling to get in. It can't get in. And people were just letting them die, because the ruling, Israeli government, it doesn't think they need the food. I wanted to also, jump off of what you had mentioned about, our own American history. There are so many parallels that are going on with the way this is being done, with what's behind it. And I think at its core is racism. I think that there is a people who think that they are better than another group of people, and that they have rights to do what they want to those people. They have dehumanized the Palestinians. They are treated like animals. The Palestinians now, they are mixing the fodder that they feed the cattle into their own food. They're eating it out of the same containers, because that's all they have. That's all they have. That's what they are trying to make bread out of. You have a group of people who believe that they have the power, that they are better, and that they can do this. And then when you have that, and you have the ability to take over, you have the ability to the money, you have the support from other governments, then they're going to do it. And that's what they're doing.
Got a question that came in. The questioner says, what role does Zionism play in this particular situation, if any?
Well, I think Zionism and the ideology that exists behind the establishment of the state of Israel is a huge driving problem here. And as Jewish Voice for Peace, we're a Jewish anti-Zionist organization. So Zionism arose in the 19th century as a sort of Jewish nationalist ideology that eventually had the goal of establishing a political state in historic Palestine. And there's a lot of history that we could talk about, but ultimately what that ended up meaning is the dispossession of the Palestinian people. And if we skip forward to today, after decades of history of dispossession, of occupation, of apartheid, you have a situation today where Israel has become a full-on far-right settler state.
Yep.
And that's sort of, if you could even imagine it, Zionism on steroids almost. And I think it's really important to make clear that not all Jewish people are Zionists.
Right.
Zionism is a political project tied to the state of Israel. And many members of Jewish Voice for Peace, there's actually a really big divide among Jews right now. In the United States, for example, you see a lot of younger Jews, progressive, who grew up hearing about, our ancestors they helped make the labor movement in the United States. They threw themselves.
I don't want to cut you off. We got to go to a quick commercial break. So we start right back at the top as soon as we come back. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't want you to get
We're
too far.
still live. We're still live on Facebook. So
We're
if
still
there's
live
any other
on
things
the
that you would
Facebook
like
plan.
to share. And don't forget to mention a few times your event, because people tune in at different times, and I've been putting it on the screen, but you want to make sure you mention it a couple of times.
And like I said, this won't be the last time. This is one of the things about raising the consciousness of the community to action, because this is a repeat of history. One can't talk about Mandela and not talk about the same kind of situation of apartheid.
I wanted to know that.
Yeah,
How
and
they connect.
you have that. When you talk about Nelson Mandela, that's exactly what he was fighting against. And what you see going on with Israel is that same practice uncaring. It got a runaway leader. One leader, and I mean, of course, he got some people who are with him, but that one leader who is not willing to concede to doing the human thing, the right thing. Even
But
the latest thing.
you reelected him. I mean, you get a person that's reelected, and y'all had this, that country had the same thing going on, and they reelect the same person again.
One
All of
important
us,
thing to note, I think, is I know Netanyahu is particularly atrocious.
Wait, we're coming back on to.
Yes.
Sorry, I keep cutting you up. But as we went to the commercial break, we're back on the Conversation with Jim Anderson show talking about the situation in Gaza right now. Before we hop right back into it, again, if you have questions or want to join the conversation, you can call in at 716-837-1112. As we were going to the break, you were describing the difference between the Jewish religion and the Zion sect of that religion, and how every Jewish person is not a Zionist.
Yeah. I mean, Zionism is a historically specific political project. What I wanted to note is that, a lot of us, myself included, grew up, learning about the Holocaust, learning about, ideals of universalism. Every human life is precious. Learning, 2 words, never again. Learning, hearing about, our ancestors and Jewish traditions in the United States of people throwing themselves into the labor movement, into the civil rights movement. And I think for a growing number of young Jews right now, not just young Jews, but particularly younger Jews, we see a gaping chasm between, on the one hand, these values that we're supposed to believe and the attempts by some to tie Judaism to this political project in Israel that has been oppressing Palestinians for decades. And, while Netanyahu might be particularly atrocious, and I believe that he is, it's also important to remember that, this has been going on for many decades. And so, I think it's been a great, sort of pride for Jewish Voice for Peace Buffalo to work with Muslim Public Affairs Council of Western New York. Honestly, it's been one of the main things that's been an antidote to falling into total despair and depression over the cataclysm that's happening right now in Gaza, and not just Gaza, the West Bank. So I guess I just wanted to say that.
This is, as a younger person, a very weird thing. For my lifetime, with COVID, with a lot of things that just happened, it's like the history books that I read in class are happening in front of me, right? And I remember when we were in class, we'd always talk about, like, yeah, man, if I were back there, I wouldn't have supported that. Oh, if I were in Germany, man, I wouldn't have supported that. I wouldn't have went for that. I would have known they were lying in the newspaper. And then here we are, years later, with the same thing going on, with the same people that were like, oh man, the manifest destiny was wrong, are now justifying the same thing, but it's overseas, right? The same people that were like, oh man, slavery was wrong, I would not have went with that. Oh man, when they were trying to justify it, man, Jim Crow would have stood. But the same thing is happening right now. And who do you listen to? The government. You listen to what they tell you, the same way that people in history that we condemn did the same thing. And so it's just so ironic almost, because like I said, this is a moment where we talk about history and history is happening in front of us, but yet people will turn a blind eye, right? So I think it's always history is 2020, right? History is perfect because you weren't there, but now we're here. So I think for the viewers and the people listening, this is a chance for you to make a different decision. 30,000 is a hard number to imagine. And one thing that I noticed as a Black boy, when we report on statistics of brutality, I think we've lost to understand what one means. I don't feel like I want my life to just be a number on a paper. I'm more than just a one, right? But yet 30,000, let's say we have an innocent Black killing in the news. That's a new innocent Black killing every day for 30 years. That's a lot. Do you imagine the outrage we made for that's one new innocent, because these people are a lot of people are innocent. A new Black killing every day for 30 years, and we're cool. And we're cool with it. And we're cool with it. And this is history right now. It's just blowing my mind as a young person to see
like I said, the same people that taught me justify it. How we even? I don't think you, like you guys said, you don't have to be informed or not. I don't know the decades of history, but I'll tell you, I do know one thing: there has to be a better way. I don't know what. I don't even know if I know it. I'm not a politician. That's their job. There has to be a better way.
And absolutely. And then just putting everything you just said into numbers also. So that's like 100 deaths a day. I think it's roughly 10,000 a month. Can you imagine? So that's 10,000 a month, 100 a day. But one of the things that I wanted to just was rolling around in my head was that as history repeats itself, you'll have these immortalized statements that is not dependent on time. And something that Malcolm X said kept circling in my head, which is that, and again I'm paraphrasing, that if you don't pay attention to the newspapers, or if you let them lead you astray, you will then start believing that the terrorist is the victim and the victim is the terrorist. So we have multiple forms of media now, and that's the truth of it, right? A couple of things just wanted to say. So firstly, with regards to a little bit of the Islamic history. So the Muslim empire, it rose and by and large for 1,200 years kind of ruled the world from Asia through Africa to Middle East and into Europe, way into Spain and obviously France. But the things that happened, so the Spanish Inquisition, the Warsaw pogroms, the Nazi Holocaust, these are born out of immense racism and hatred in Europe. If you remember that image that the Jews had on the boat or on the ship when they landed in Palestine, that huge banner in the front, and don't do to us what the Europeans did to to us. It's irony upon irony for people who had nothing to do with it. And not only that, during those times of the Spanish Inquisition and the pogroms, it was the Muslim empire that always gave refuge to the Jews. So talk to any Jewish rabbi, they can go back to 1,400 years and they'll have these tremendous texts of love and relationship with Muslims. And how ironic and how disastrous it is with what's going on now. You said something that you don't need to go far back in history. You're absolutely right. You can look critically at a moment. And in Islam, there's something called fitra, which basically means an internal compass that every single human being is born with. So a 5-year-old child can see his dad beating his mom, and he knows that there's something wrong. A 5-year-old child can see someone shooting someone else on the street and know that that's wrong. That's per that internal compass. So you can take any given moment in time and you can dissect it as cleanly as you can. At the same token, the history is exactly the way that you think it is. It's been the 75 years of insane propaganda and money machine. Another fact I was seeing just yesterday, there were 500 Hollywood movies made directly about the Holocaust. 500. And not a single one about Gaza.
You see, so
and this is direct.
So here we are,
and thousands of.
Let me ask a question here, because I'm hearing so much that has me. We talked about apartheid and all that there, to the point that there are still mass murders happening over in Africa right now. Bodies are being laid out in Africa right now, and these numbers are still there. My question to you is this. When it comes to the fight, it seems like the fight is coming to America now. Mosques are being attacked. Synagogues are being attacked. That's not the way how you're supposed to do business. It's not an eye for an eye, especially when we hear. You see what I'm saying? Because we all came here one way or the other. And I'm seeing that happening a lot now. People are taking actions and turning it to death. You get what I'm saying? That's not fair business. That's not trying to end racism. That's you and your own ideologies rolling out like that. How do we change that? Because you said the name of your organization is called MPAC, right? So give me that. What is MPAC doing on all levels in this community we live in right here in Buffalo, New York? How are we going to collaborate together and get our organizations to come together to hear what your mission is and say that's our same cause just as well. Let's come together and let's not be separated, because you got to look at Buffalo right now. We're very separated, right? But I know that somebody might decide to do something wrong or call out a politician that really didn't have anything to do with it. We know that when we march right there at City Hall, that's supposed to be for everyone to go to. Occupy Buffalo was there years ago. 99% was there years ago. Stop the Violence was there years ago. But when we come together, we come in pods. We don't come together to come up with the solution, to sit at a table, because you should be able to sit at a table with your Muslim brother, with your Jewish brother, with your black people, with your white folks, sitting at the table right now saying, we going to change the mindset of what's happening over there right here in Buffalo. So how do you answer what's going on with MPAC? That is the shakeup. That's why I'm here. That is the shakeup question for today.
Yeah, for sure. So MPAC has been working for around 20 years now, trying to make a positive change in the media, with politicians, in educational institutions. We do a lot of interfaith work. We have a lot of connections with, established other religions all over. And, I will say that, the need now has never been like it has been in the past. So we are, in a sense, kind of scrambling to keep up with what we need to do to help, because we haven't had to. I mean, this of this magnitude hasn't happened. I do see a few rifts within the interfaith community. They're not big and they're singled out. They're single rifts, but it is scary that's even there. That shouldn't be there, especially with the interfaith community. It's what we hold, strong and together are our commonalities in our faith. And, for people to feel because they support one group or another, oh, it's okay for me no longer talk to my friend who I've been talking to for 20 years now, because they don't support my political idea. That we really thought we were stronger than that. That being said, the Muslims as a whole, our religion, Islam means peace. That's the definition. It means peace. We preach peace. We believe in peace. We value every single human life. And we are, need to do more work to, make sure that our, the core of our religion, that our people, can come together and become an even a bigger force to help us here in Buffalo. I'll go ahead and throw in there. Our email is wny@mpac.org. That's MPAC.org. And our website is mpacwny.org. If you'd like to visit, if you shoot us an email, we'll add you to our email list. And we send out newsletters and keep everyone informed. And I just wanted to, go back to the history of this. It's I guess I'll say I'll make another point. What happened on October 7th was horrible, was terrible. We have a saying in our religion that when there's a death of a murder of one person, it's as though the entire mankind has been murdered. We do not condone or believe that anyone should be senselessly targeted, hurt, let alone murdered. We do not support what happened. It should not have happened that way. But what hurts is that there's, about 1,700? I forget the number. People that were on October 7th.
Oh, yeah.
That were murdered. 1,200?
1,400.
1,400 people about that were lives were taken. And many different people from different politicians, Jewish leaders, supporters in the Israeli community have used that number to excuse the 31,000 deaths. It makes no sense how you can excuse 31,000 deaths by saying, well, 1,700 were murdered. That hurts a lot, especially when 2/3 of those people were women and children. And I want to know what guilt do those babies have? Do those children have? Okay? Terrorists exist. We don't want terrorists to exist. We need to do better to ensure terrorists don't exist. No one's born a terrorist. They come out of different, there's reasons that terrorist organizations grow. They grow when there's poverty, when people are being persecuted, when they have a lack of human
when
rights.
money is involved. Let's go there.
Yeah,
When money is involved.
When there's oppression, when there's occupation, when there's discrimination, people aren't going to sit around and let it happen. They're going to do something about it. And so I'm not excusing what happened, but I'm saying we can't ignore where this comes from. So what guilt, what fault do those children, do those babies have that they had no idea what was coming, but the side wants to excuse and say, oh, well, that's the Palestinian people. You see, if you do this to us, and this is what's going to happen to you. That you cannot, this is not an eye for an eye. And, the way this has happened, the indiscriminate attacks, dropping bombs on wherever they feel like dropping bombs, this is not trying to eliminate Hamas. This is trying to eliminate the Palestinians.
And I want to clarify something I said earlier. I said for 30 years, it's for 90 years. So if we exclude, if we just do women and children, that's 60 years. That's a new innocent killing for 60 years. It's this, like I said, this is so crazy. One thing I was taught in school was what's called cleaning the slate, right? When you have an issue, when you have something that's making you upset, just take the emotions out of it, right? Take a lot of labels out of it and just put it purely what it is. These are people dying. When you ask me the collaboration between Buffalo and other organizations, what is Peacemakers? An organization committed to stopping people dying. What are these people fighting for? These are organizations committed to stopping people dying, because that's what it comes down to, right? Regardless of what labels you put on yourself, a human life inherently comes with value, right? And it doesn't take, whether I'm 5 or older, we know life has value. Right? That's why we don't just walk out and hit people and do things. Like you said, it doesn't take a genius. Kids know hitting is wrong. That's why when you yell at them, they're not confused. Oh, okay. My bad. They know what's wrong, right? We know what's wrong and right. And so sometimes I think we can get so locked in to these scenarios that we're in that we forget to pull back the scope and recognize what's truly going on. So I just want that to be clear. My question to you guys, because I'm focused on what can we do to help, right? I know a big part of this is the conversations that we're having. What advice do you guys have for someone when we're looking and consuming media to make sure that we're not just falling for what they're saying, but getting the true story? Is it making sure that we're always going that extra step? Is it making sure to avoid certain sources? But what would be you guys' advice for someone like me who maybe not directly as have a hand on it to be informed the right way and not indoctrinated into another thought of thinking? So I think you're absolutely right. At the core of it is, forget about knowledge, just simple information, like as it stands. So for example, there's the largest, or one of the most famous Muslim organizations that deal exclusively with government and media, and that's CARE. So
CAIR.
yeah,
CARE.
what's it?
Council
for American
Islamic
Relations, Council for American Islamic Relations. So that's a great resource. Again, any of these bodies that you talk about, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the United Nations, for God's sake. By the way, another thing, and these images you've seen all, you have that image of 158 nations voting one thing, then on the only two, always repeated on repeat. Israel, America, and then only now the UK, and it was also the UK, but now they're just starting to abstain. So any and every resolution that's brought on, so that we've reached the point where things are so glaring that anyone, like I said, just peel one layer. Just ask the basic question: why would Just ask that. Okay, so even if you, and I totally agree with Sister Barbara, nothing starts out of context. Nothing starts out of vacuum. You've oppressed the people for 75 years, actually by international law. And look it up, by international law. Armed resistance is legal.
Well, that's exactly
when you are oppressed, when you're under apartheid, and you're under tremendous oppression, armed resistance is okay. Again, no one in the right mind says that a killing is right, but these are just the basics again. So if someone just asks the question, what was it before October 7th that led to this? 2021, 2022. Shireen Abu Akleh, you heard you know about the Al Jazeera journalist, right? She was American Christian Palestinian journalist killed in 2022, and Israel said, show us the proof, and then we'll denounce it. Well, ultimately they show, or the United States said that, just like how Mr. Biden,
showed the proof.
Mr. Biden started crying with the 40 beheaded babies. I mean, it's like every single thing that's thrown and then debunked, and then nothing happens.
It's like you said, those bombs. Sorry, go ahead.
No, were you going to say something? I've handed over to you.
I was just going to say that in Jewish Voice for Peace's analysis, we believe that the only way to try to address this conflict is to get to the root of it. And at the root of this conflict is the decades-long dispossession, occupation of the Palestinian people, of apartheid. That's the political problem that's at the heart of this. And the only way we can even begin to talk about, moving towards peace and justice for everyone is to address that root problem of the oppression of the Palestinian people that has been going on for decades. If you don't do that, this stuff's going to keep happening.
You're absolutely right, and I see that, and I would add that look, nobody has any excuse to not stand up in this moment, even with all the history. The people went back and read all the history. That would not even be enough for them to understand, because it's too much. In this moment, just looking at the bodies that we've seen so far is enough to say, you stand up and say, stop it. I thought about it simple. When you see two people out there fighting, and they'd be fighting, the tendency is to say, hey, stop and break it up. That should be in everybody's spirit. The question for some people, what are you waiting for? I mean, not fussing at you, but telling you we need to show up. Even I want people, particularly African Americans, to look in the challenger. When El Nisa came to the rally last week, and she was taking pictures, and the thing that came out of her heart was, she said, we need to be in this, and she's right. And that's what this is why we're doing this show and going to do more, because community, we need to stand up. This is no different than what we have. It is different. The difference in our history over time with the slaughter, we're looking at a mass slaughter that has occurred, and people standing and they mum. You can't be mum. You can't. This is more than dropping on your knees. I'm gonna shut up because we're gonna do more show, and we want to give y'all the last word. Y'all got.
We're gonna hop right out of here. Yeah. I just wanted to say, to join off what you're saying, it is our issue, because it's the same contradiction that you were talking about in the beginning. We talk about bad apples in the policing system. Don't mean every police is bad. How do bad apples mean that everybody is now guilty? It doesn't make sense. It's a contradiction. They feed us the contradiction and use the same contradiction for themselves when it benefits them. It's disingenuous. But as we close out, I know you guys may have things that are important for us to support, you listeners that want to support. Do you guys have any events, important dates coming up that we should save, that we should be at to better support and voice that we are in support with you, as well as any more important contact information if you want to reiterate it, so people can make sure to stay involved and stay connected? So events and contact information.
Sure. So for sure, I just wanted to mention two more things that we can do. I'm a teacher by profession, and we used to teach just by the textbooks, and we know that it's not always right, and we know many times who writes them. And Nowadays, teachers use firsthand resources. We use pictures, we use letters, we use recordings, we use video. We show our students the realities of history, and this is so important. So in order to stay informed, you do have to listen to the media to know what they're talking about, but you need to, what we have now is we have videos of what's going on in Palestine straight from the Palestinians. You can look, you hear news from Palestine from the Palestinians, you know what's going on. So stay informed with the firsthand resources. Don't just look at the news channels. Go, and we have social media, you can find it. Number 2 is going to be hold the elected officials responsible, ask questions. There are a lot of talk, but you have to ask questions. You have to reach out. You have to write them. And voting season's coming up. We have to keep them, hold them accountable. So for MPAC, we do have an upcoming event. It's called the Tent of Abraham, and this is specifically, or especially for people of all faiths are invited. We're going to be breaking fast on March 20th. It's a Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. at Islamic Center at 745 Heim Road in Amherst. And we will have this information posted on our website. It would be great if anyone's invited. It'll be a lovely evening
Nice.
with different people. Yes.
Yeah.
If you did not get that information, make sure to get either the contact information. You can go on Jim's Facebook page or my Facebook page for the stream to get that. Or if you're really curious, you didn't get it, call the station and ask them to connect you with the guest. I'm sorry, normally you guys get some last words, but we're kind of rushing out as the show is ending. But thank you guys for being here. I think we want to have more shows with you guys in the future. It's an important issue that hopefully would go away soon, but I think it's going to be something that we're going to be talking about for a little bit, even if it's in hindsight. So, Jim, I'm going to let you have the last word as we close out.
I'm just going to say you'll definitely be back again in community. We want you to hear. I'm getting married the last word.
So what we're going to do is do this here. I have a TV show. I'm going to get your number. It's called Open TV at the Apollo Media Center. You can bring as more guests as you want. It's 59 minutes long. We'll bring Jim Anderson and others here so we can continue this talk and dialogue. It's important that you guys come into our community and dialogue with us. You cannot stay doing this on your own. It's all of us that matters. All of us matters. I feel your hurt. Trust me, I felt it. Okay. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum. All right. All right. And so we go from there.
Thank you so much, man. I just love